In 2005, my wife, Susan, and I and another couple decided on a Scandinavian driving trip vacation. We would fly to Helsinki, ferry to Stockholm, drive to Gothenburg, ferry to Denmark and finish our road trip there. Our first 100 miles traveling west was uneventful. We then slowly drove into the quaint, beautifully restored foundry village of Ninescares. I parked the car on the top of a small embankment. We toured the town for about an hour, then it was time to be on our way. I started up the car, stepping down on what I thought was the brake, but it was really the clutch. The car would not stop, and slowly we began to go over the embankment. Our spouses screamed, and my friend grabbed for the car's ceiling, hoping to control his fall. I expected the car to tumble front first onto its roof. Suddenly, the car stopped, the two front wheels in midair. A large rock, meant to keep the embankment wall from deteriorating, had come loose and had wedged its way under the car, stopping the vehicle. We all got out, very carefully, at the same time. We assumed the car would ultimately flip over and be severely damaged. We headed for the Ninescares factory store. The manager quickly understood our predicament. He had only to look out his front door, and began to make phone calls. While there was a Finland Auto Association, their trucks were either tied up with a large accident or not available. The store manager called the town engineers, and they sent out a truck driver in about an hour. After the truck driver surveyed the situation, he came back to us, shaking his head. He needed help. He returned with another driver and a forklift. The forklift approached the car from the front, to lift and level it with the rear wheels and to ultimately put it back into the original parking space. Up into the air and back the car went. No damage could be found, even when the undercarriage was examined. All efforts to reward our newfound Finnish friends were refused. They waved as we left. I was not driving this time. Once when traveling from Lafayette, Louisiana to see my dad in Houston, Texas, back before cell phones, my friend and I got lost on the way within the city of Houston. We got off I-10 and stopped at a gas station that had a bank of payphones. We passed a first gas station before arriving at the second with the payphones. I noticed two men loitering at the first, and that is probably why I stopped at the second. I don't remember if either was actually open, but us and those two men were all that I remember being around. I parked the car such that north to south was me at the payphones, the passenger side of our car, with my friend in the passenger seat, and about 100 yards to where those two men were located across the street at the other gas station. I spoke with my dad and got most of the directions we needed, but before that I saw the two men coming toward us, crossing the street, and after a few moments, splitting up. I think that was the first alarm bell that went off for me. By the time they got close I was telling my dad, "Gotta go," and hanging up the phone as one man neared the rear of our car and the other came around the front. Well, you can get to the driver's side of a car through the passenger side door, and that is what I did. I'm sure my friend had bruises on her legs afterward, but I don't remember her mentioning it. I jumped over her and through to the driver's seat where the keys were already in the ignition, which I turned, put it into gear and burned rubber out of there. Man, my heart was pounding. Oh, and I remember now that I dropped the phone receiver and didn't hang it up. We were sitting in a car the entire night, literally scared, near international border. It was September 2017, 3 of my friends, 2 guys and a girl, and I had taken a trip during our MBA. It was so unplanned a trip that, we were planning the next spot and stay when we have actually left the previous place. The plan was to cover Northeast, Shillong, Cherrapunji, Daki, etc. We had rented Honda Amaze from Guwahati and I was the only one out 4 who could drive. Our trip started really well and we saw Shillong and Cherrapunji in first 2 days. Third day we had planned to go on a trek to see Rainbow Waterfalls. It is near Cherrapunji and an amazing sight. It was about 12-15 km trek and everyone was tired by the time we reached. However, the scenery there took all the tiredness out. It looked like this: you can see rainbow in the water, smiley face. By the time we came back, it was 5.30 and we had a decision to make, whether to stay in Cherrapunji itself or drive to Daki. I checked on maps and it showed 84 kilometers, 2.5 hours. Being confident, I told my friends I am very sure we can drive this in 2 hours, and we can search for hotel/tent on the way, and we'll stay in Daki only. They were a bit reluctant as they were really tired, but in the end said, anyways you have to drive so let us go. We confirmed with the localites and they said the road is really good and you can reach in 2 hours. I always like some adventures and trip, so I was super excited. Smiley face. And we left from Cherrapunji towards Daki, little did we know what was coming. Initial 10-12 km was a very nice road, and then started this, we could hardly see the white lines on the road. My friends had planned to sleep, were so scared that they could not even take a power nap. In this situation, one of my friend, Sudipto, asks me, Swapnil, tum maza aa rahi hai na bahat. Swapnil, you are enjoying, isn't it? I said, Han yar. I always like adventures, don't worry I'll manage this. This was tough because, it was the road where I was driving for the first time, that too it wasn't my car and it was when we walked kms on the same day. Every 10 minutes we were asking each other, how much more time? What time will we reach? It was 11 p.m. by then. And still we were on the road, with hardly any other vehicle. Suddenly my friend Kushbu shouted, it's already 11.30, kitni baya pahachenj? What time will we reach? Me, what? It was 10.50, just now, and now it's 11.30. She showed me her phone, it was 11.30. I checked my phone, so did my other two friends, it was 11 o'clock p.m. She said, your phones aren't working. Get new phones guys. I was clueless. And then suddenly Sudipto shouted. Kushbu's phone has active internet connection, and we are on Bangladesh border, so it is showing Bangladesh time. Then we looked on the right, and yes we were actually on the border, literally we could see Bangladesh on the right side. Finally we reached Daki, after BSF check-in gate. And we were relieved. But, the trouble was not over. We hadn't booked hotel as we were so focused on reaching that we lost sight of the bigger picture. And Daki is such a small town that everyone had already slept by then. So apart from some, drunk, strangers and BSF personnel there wasn't anyone on the roads. Now here we were, in a town on the border, with nowhere to go. And not to forget after one of the most tiring day of our life. We tried to sleep in car, but as Daki is on plains, and it was really hot there, plus it was raining. So could not do so. So 3 of us came out, and literally sat the whole night outside. Literally we were so scared to sleep. So we just talked the whole night about how it was the night we were gonna remember for a long time. While Sudipto and Kushbu had a learning that, you should always plan ahead, I learned how to be calm in uncertainties from them. And this became our profile picture for a long time after that, winky face.